Okay.
Hi, and welcome to the Dead Man Walking Podcast. I am your host, Repeatedly Dead Fred, author of the soon to be released memoir, The Summer I Died 20 Times, which is actually what happened to me, and thus the
Wow.
name Repeatedly Dead Fred. Makes sense, right?
Very, very interesting. I died once. So you died 20 times. I died once. Interesting.
Oh, okay. We'll hear about that story soon.
Yeah.
I have Marnie Kinrys, who is probably one of the premier dating coaches in North America, and she is the wing girl, or she started the wing girl system. And the reason I wanted to talk with Marnie is because I think what she teaches impacts so many men and their confidence and their mental health. So, Marnie, thank you for being on, and I'm interested to hear all sorts of things from you.
Oh gosh, the pressure. No, thanks for having me on. I love doing things like this, especially with fellow Canadians. So
Mhm.
the treat.
Yeah. So Marnie has a wildly popular, I guess, podcast YouTube channel
Yeah,
with well over 1 million subscribers. So she must be doing something right.
I guess so. I don't know. I get shocked every time that I see that. I'm like, who's watching my information? But
Hmm.
yeah, people seem to like it.
And I bet there's a huge number of people that aren't subscribed that still watch your channel.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
So, so I guess the first question is, how did you get into this business?
This is just like a joke that I made to a friend, to be honest. I was 23. I went to a singles mixer at a rabbi's house with my best friend who was newly single. I had just met my now husband a month before, so I was window shopping. Uh, and nobody was talking to each other when we got to the singles mixer. And I wasn't interested in anybody. So I started going up to men and saying, like, which girls do you want to talk to? I'll help introduce you to them. I'll help like bridge the conversation for you. And they had some questions. I would give responses. And then they would muster up the courage to go walk over with me. And we start talking to women. By the end of the night, people were paired up. They were having fun. They were, potentially going on dates because they were getting numbers. One couple was making out. It was wonderful. It was like so wonderful. And I was on such a high after that evening that I went home and I said to my roommate, who was a guy, I want to be a wing girl. And he's like, I don't even know what that is. And I was like, well, it would be a girl who like helps guys get girls. And he's like, not a chance. Guys will never pay for that kind of service. And they do not want advice from women. They do, because they don't believe what women say women want. And I was like, you know what? I'm different and I don't think you're right. So I put a post up on Craigslist at like 1:30 in the morning saying, do you want a wing girl? I'll do all the dirty work for you. You sit back and relax and I'll pick up women for you. I went to bed and by the next time there was like 80 guys who had responded saying like, what's a wing girl? And I want a wing girl and I'll do it. Sign me up. So I was like, okay, let's start this. And then I just started from there. So originally it was like a live service where I would go out with men and I would literally
Mm-hmm.
help them pick up women, or I would even pick up women for them. But what it transitioned into was men really just asking for my advice, just like information that they didn't have access to because
Mm-hmm.
either they didn't have female friends, they weren't taught by other males about how women work. And because, before, even so now, it was kind of shameful for men to ask for help in this area of their lives, which it shouldn't be, but it
Mm-hmm.
was. And so they just ended up really spending most of the time with me, asking me questions for clarification, for peace of mind, for building their confidence. And that's what I then transitioned into doing. I was then teaching men how to pick up women themselves. Because the truth is,
Mm-hmm.
if a man needs me live in person to pick up a woman for him, he's not much of a man. That's the truth. And so I started transitioning to provide at-home systems, programs, advice, and content for men on how to build masculine confidence, attract women, and understand the female perspective in the whole dating game. And people seem to really like it.
Mm-hmm. So, two questions from this. So, have you always been this super outgoing, take charge kind of woman that just started walking up to men and saying, talk to these girls? And second, there were people making out in the rabbi's house.
Yes, this one couple was like kissing, and I was like, "Oh my god, what are you doing? It's so sacrilegious."
Mm-hmm.
So okay, have I always been? I was just watching with this morning, just randomly. My husband found our wedding DVD and we played it
Mhm.
for our kids. And my sisters were making this speech about me kind of always being like this. But the interesting thing is, I don't remember me always being like that. I actually remember
Mhm.
me being insecure, shy, anxious, uncomfortable, because that's what was going on for me internally. So I think the answer is yes, I was, but I didn't recognize that when I was younger. And the other caveat to that answer is yes, I think I was doing that with men because I was more confident around them, but I definitely wasn't doing that with women. Most of my insecurities from when I was younger was with women. That's why I resonated and continue to resonate so well with the men that I
Mhm.
work with. I was as clueless about women and
Mhm.
creating relationships and attraction with them as the men are or the men were. And through my own coaching with them, I've learned how to be, I mean, I'm pretty great with women. So I've learned how to be great with them, but that's over a period of time, like 17 years to get to that position
Mhm.
of finally feeling great around women.
Now you have become so great with women uh, that you actually almost picked up a server. I think you
Oh,
said on one of
yeah.
your recent YouTubes. Want to tell
Yes, I
that story?
have. I mean, yeah, well, I mean, I can tell numerous stories like that because I'm always trying to test out what it is that I'm preaching to others, right? So a lot of what
Mhm.
I teach is based in science, biology, psychology, sociology. So there's always like some sort of tactic that I am working on, but my intent,
Mhm.
I believe, is always pure. I'm not meant like trying to manipulate or objectify people. And so I was out with my girlfriends and I ended up like flirting with this waitress. Both of us not lesbians, but I mean, there can still be
Mhm.
attraction there and still be those same feelings of excitement and attraction that don't result in anything in the end for us happening. But at one point, my friends had to say, like, stop flirting with the waitress. Like, we just want to place our order. It's ridiculous. And she was flirting
Mhm.
back with me and getting distracted from taking everybody's order. So yeah, I am really good at it. But I've had that happen. I mean, hundreds of times now throughout my life, which is amazing.
So, have you seen, because of, I guess, COVID and social media, that men are even more hesitant to approach women,
Yeah, of course.
and that their confidence has been even dipped a little lower?
Yeah, 100%. And because there's so much shame for men right now,
Mhm.
right? Like men are the most hated people in the world right now. They don't, nobody cuts them slack. I had somebody on my show, my podcast a couple of weeks ago, who was talking about, I'm going to totally misquote this, but this is like the
Mhm.
idea in a roundabout way. They had done this study where there was a presenter, a female presenter, who was doing a presentation for two different audiences. And she was talking about an individual throughout this presentation. In the first presentation, she framed the messaging around the presentation as if it was a woman she was talking about. In the second
Mhm.
presentation, she framed the messaging as if it was a man she was talking about. And the presentation was about the individual being down on their luck, the hardships they had to go through, and how they are struggling right now to get back to normal. Right. So at the
Mhm.
end of the second presentation, which was framed as a male individual having struggle. People just listened, they left, they didn't really care afterwards about this struggle of a man.
Mhm.
And the first presentation, people came up to the stage after the presentation, were asking the presenter, how can they help? How can they get involved? What organizations could they create to help this individual? So like the study is really showing that sadly, men are being shunned right now and nobody really wants to help their cause if they're flailing or not doing well right now, which is extremely sad, because
Mhm.
my belief is that you elevate men, then you elevate the rest of the world. Because if men are doing good and they are more tapped into their emotions, they have confidence, they can be really good men without being jerks or players or douchebags, they can then level women up. They can level up the world. I just think like that's the person you should be focusing on right now, not shunning them and making them angrier.
Mhm. That's both a fascinating story and very depressing.
Very depressing. It is.
Yeah.
It is.
So, um, I believe everybody should have a therapist or a coach of some sort. And,
Absolutely.
you know, there's men are traditionally not the greatest at asking for help in most areas of their life. And I
Yeah.
think right now they need to uh, do it more and more.
100%. That same person who was on my podcast, he's an anthropologist. So he was
Mhm,
saying, and I don't fully really know what this means, but he was
mhm.
saying that another study that was done on men who ask for help apparently have more gray matter in their brain. So it means that they're
Okay.
more emotionally fluid, right? They have higher emotional intelligence. Like men who ask for help have higher emotional intelligence and more gray matter in their brain, which means I think that their brain's more fluid and they can just see things from different perspectives. I'm not really 100% clear on what gray matter means, but again,
Mhm.
it means more emotional intelligence, which right now everybody's striving to have more emotional intelligence, and it makes you wiser and gives you a foot up in the world.
Yeah, I must be off the charts with emotional intelligence.
There you go.
I'm always asking people for help.
There you go.
I, it's probably 15 years ago. If I had been doing something like this, I would not have approached you to come on my show. I was thinking, why would this woman want to be on my show? I've just got a little starting out podcast. And she's this big social media influencer and everything. It's just beyond. But now,
Now you
different
do it.
person.
I love it.
Yeah, we all have to evolve.
The only thing you can do in life is ask, right? If you're
Mhm.
not
Yeah,
asking, you're not going after opportunities. You can ask, you can get a no or a yes, but at least you know.
exactly. And that's the same with asking a woman out
Yeah,
because we get too much into our own heads and worry about everything that could go wrong instead of what could go right.
exactly.
Yeah. I just did a podcast with a woman named Julia Langley, who's a speaking coach. She's a performer with Cirque du Soleil, classic
Oh, very
dance,
cool.
and stuff like that. And she teaches people how to get up their inner courage and get out there. And
Wonderful.
yeah,
That's cool.
she'd be good for your podcast too, I think.
Okay, that would be great.
So, um, so do you have sort of like a top 3 or 5 list of things that you see men as doing poorly at in just, you know, once they get up the nerve to meet a woman or to talk to a woman in whatever social setting, what do they do right and what do they do wrong?
I mean, the wrong thing is really just not even asking for what they want, right? Like holding back, thinking that it's rude or intrusive or it's disrespectful to really just put their intentions out there. I mean, that's the
Mm-hmm,
number one mistake, which leads to them not flirting, them not admitting that they're a sexual being, men not or men covering up their desires, men getting ruffled by things that women say. So I think really
mm-hmm,
at the pinnacle of it is really just not expressing who they truly are as men, which I think is a
mm-hmm,
huge shame. That's the biggest mistake overall
mm-hmm.
that I see men making. What are they doing right? What are they doing right? I mean, they're doing a lot of things right. They're asking me for help. They're trying to get solutions. They're trying things out. They're practicing. They're putting themselves out there. I mean, those are the men that I see. First of all, any
Mm-hmm.
man that signs up for my newsletter, listens to my podcast, watches one of my videos, they're trying to assist themselves, right? And in my eyes,
Mm-hmm.
that's the first step to success, right? You're opening up your eyes to new information or just information that may result in something shifting for you, right? That's the first step. Second step is actually putting everything to practice.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all the right things to be doing for any person, not just for men.
Mm-hmm. So, do you have any stories of somebody who started off just, you know, looking like they would never meet anybody in their life? And after
I
working
mean, I
with
have
you,
thousands of stories of that. Yeah.
thousands, we don't
So
have that much
I
time.
know, no, I have so many wonderful stories. So we have this wonderful coaching program that we run right now, and
Mm-hmm.
we do they people who sign up, they get 12 flirting sessions with my amazing wing girls where they get to practice
Mm-hmm.
flirting with them in a safe environment and get immediate feedback on
Mm-hmm.
how they're presenting themselves and how they're carrying themselves and what they're subcommunicating to women, which is just unbelievable for so many men. And like
Mm-hmm.
then every week they also get a call with me and we just do Q&A, we talk through things, we do some additional coaching. And last night was just like a really wonderful call because the group that I'm working with right now, has been in this program anywhere from like 3 weeks to 12 weeks.
Mhm.
And just like to see them all shifting and having amazing experiences. Like there's one guy who is halfway through the program and he finally asked his yoga instructor for her number. She gave it to
Mhm.
him. He's going on a second date with this amazing girl and tried out this new tactic of not pouncing on a woman after he goes on a
Mhm.
first date with her. And she is now engaging and approaching him and asking him out on a second date. So that was music to my ears. And then even the person who's been in the program for 3 weeks, who has like had to deal with so much crap that he didn't realize he had to deal with. And it's just
Mhm.
like taken 150 pounds of weight off of his shoulders. And now he was telling a story last night about how he went to the grocery store. This woman walked by and he made like solid eye contact with a good smirk at
Mhm.
her. And she did it back and he didn't look away. Like those are huge wins for me, right? These
Mhm.
are just men who are transforming and changing and just opening up their themselves to the world around them, is, including women. Women are part of it, they're not the whole piece of it. And it's,
Mhm.
I don't know, they're just like, I hear a story like that, once every 4 hours, because I get an email from a man telling
Mhm.
me how what we've done together or the information that I've given them has changed their life. So yes, thousands and thousands of stories, which is wonderful.
Isn't that smirk unbelievably powerful?
It is, but actually, last night we decided on our call that the eye contact is way more powerful. Eye
Mhm.
contact is the most powerful. Smirk is the second, and
Mhm.
combination of both is like magical.
Mhm. It's fun to do. I probably learned that very early on in Toastmasters.
Yes,
When
yes,
you're
for
making the
sure.
eye contact with the audience and everything like that, and you give them the old smirk, and I know
Yeah,
something you don't know. Kind of
yeah. I
exciting.
know something you don't know. Yes, that's exactly it. I know something you don't know, but
Mhm.
I might tell you. Come closer. Yeah,
Mhm. So you've talked about flirting a lot, and I think you have a flirting program, do you not?
I do. It's called the
Like,
F formula. Yeah.
okay. Um, is that also a multi-week program, or is that just something you do online?
It's something you do online. So really what the flirting sessions are bringing the F formula to life. But yes, the F formula is just I have an audiobook, and it's an ebook that people purchase, but it's a system. So there's 3 phases of the F formula. So it walks you through exactly how to do it and do it successfully in a way that women respond to.
I think there's people who are probably listening or watching this and saying, "How can you not know how to flirt?"
I know. And that's part of the shame there, right? Like how can you not know how to flirt? I mean, how would you know how to flirt, right? And how would you know how to flirt properly? Nobody teaches
Mhm.
this stuff. Nobody sits you
Mhm.
down in school and says like this is how you flirt with women and these are the signs to look for. So people are left to their own devices to figure it out. So they watch movies or they watch porn or they listen to their friends who may have horrible advice or they may have great advice. Some people are really lucky to have great mentors who just like understand women and know how to be playful and know how to be flirty. But I would say the majority of people do not have that example in their life. Or even if they have that example, they may not know how to interpret what it is that they're seeing and do it
Mhm.
themselves. So while we all think that, yes, you should naturally be able to do these things, I don't know why we would or should think this. Plus, all the rules are shifting and changing, so
Mhm.
that's putting limitations on people as well. So I don't think you should naturally be able to do it. I learned how to do it. I mean, through watching films and then through practice of my own and seeing what works. But
Mhm.
most people are not as comfortable enough to put themselves out there to potentially fail. Uh, and if they even have done that and failed, they take that failure pretty harshly and then they're scared to do it again.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's what
You're
I would
essentially
say to those people.
you're essentially running a flirting laboratory.
Ooh, I'm writing that down.
Yeah.
Flirting laboratory. I like that.
Yeah. We're going to have this hypothesis and test it out and see what goes and see what doesn't work.
Yes, I like that. Okay. Very cool. I like that.
Thanks. I think there's a ton of stuff that people assume we learn or we know that never get taught in school.
Yeah.
Everything from cooking to
Communication. any all of it. Actually, I did learn cooking in school. We did used to have like
Mhm,
home ec. They don't really have that anymore. But
mhm,
even communication, they're starting to do it now, right? Because
mhm,
I mean, at least I'm in California. So in my kids' school, social emotional is a huge part of the curriculum.
mhm.
But we live in an area where there's 5 schools in the district. Our school is one of the only ones that are focusing heavily on that. Other schools focus more on science, Spanish, there's different things, but our school is
Mhm.
heavily focused on that. But I would say the majority of schools do not focus on how are you feeling? How is that person feeling? Let's communicate about that so we understand it. I think it's wonderful that some schools are doing that now, but
Mhm.
it's not something that we're taught. And I think it's way more important for us to learn that than to, I mean, geography is important too, but like maybe learn that after you learn how to talk to the person beside you.
Hey, I'm a geography major.
Oh, sorry.
So, even at the upper levels of school, like when I was in grad school, and I did an MBA, which is supposed to be all about management. They don't teach you anything about managing. They don't teach you
Really? I
any.
bet you they do now. I'm sure they do now.
There was not one class on how do you have a weekly review with your employee?
See, that's
How do you
crazy
have
to me.
one-on-ones? How do you resolve,
How do
conflicts?
conflict exactly? How do you, motivate your workers? That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
That is so
Send them to human resources if they can't get along.
Mhm.
That was sort of the traditional thing. And
That's
then human
interesting.
resources, like, what do we
Like,
do
I
with
don't know
this?
how to do this. I'm just
You're
gonna
the
hire and
boss.
fire you. Exactly. It's so
So,
interesting. And then it's really hard that like so even I'm bringing this back to like my children again, but that one of my children has a teacher right now who's very old school. She's a wonderful, passionate teacher, but she
mm,
has the worst way of communicating with children. And every
mm,
parent knows it, and every parent has complained about it, but she's also extremely academic and a great teacher and very passionate, right?
mhm.
And I know that the principal has been working with her to have better communication, but she's pretty set in her ways because she's been doing this for 60 odd years. So, the fact that other schools are starting to teach it at a younger age now is super important. Even just understanding how what you put out there affects other people is so such important information that so many of us didn't have growing up.
Mhm. Even with a simple email now, I might rewrite an email 8 to 10 times
Oh
before I
yeah,
send it now, just to make sure that there's no chance there's going to be the wrong tone or anything
exactly.
like that. It's
Exactly.
very difficult, time consuming, but
Totally time consuming. I do that too. This is how I do things. I'll write what I really want to say out in an email so I get that emotion out of me, and then I'll go back and edit it afterwards. And I'll,
mhm,
so, and I think that's what most people are doing now because they're like, I don't want to say anything wrong or bad or insulting. And it's difficult sometimes.
mhm. With regards to dating through the apps, which I think is so prevalent these days, do you have any advice to the men that, you know,
Yeah, you
do's
use
and
them.
don'ts?
Yeah,
So,
use
yeah.
them, number one, but also, use the world around you and go out and interact in real life. Even if you have limited time, make sure that you're getting out at least one day a week to be social, not necessarily targeting women, but being social and interacting and keeping up your conversation skills. But online, you don't try to appeal to the masses, try to appeal to the audience that's going to best fit with you. So, meaning put your values down, put your interests down. And I'm not saying like make a laundry list of the things that you
Mhm.
want and need, like so many women do online,
Yeah.
but show pictures that show who you are. If you have tattoos, show that tattoos. If you love boating, show that you love boating. If you have a dog, show that you love a dog. Um,
Mhm.
and then I would say also, select from that place as well. Yes, of course, you're going to swipe on who you find attractive, but if you can, dig a little bit deeper and see if there's
Mhm.
things that you actually share in common, even if you're just trying to sleep with somebody. Like you
Mhm.
still want to have that kind of connection there, right? And you still want to be able to use online dating as if you're a man that's selective, not just taking anything that he can get. So I would say cast a smaller net, be more specific and be clear about what it is that you're looking for and hold yourself to that bar. That's my advice.
I think that's great advice. You made a great point about being very selective, and it's marketing 101. If you want to be mass market, you're going to be in the store in front of the cashier, and you're going to be sold for a buck 25. But
Yep.
you know, and if you want to position yourself as a more premium product, you have to put some thought into what's going to make me a
Yes.
premium product.
Ooh, I like how you're phrasing this. Yes.
And it's difficult to for a lot of people to figure that out. So again, people need to ask for help about
Yeah.
what makes me awesome, or what makes
Mhm.
you awesome, or
Yeah.
you know. And I think if you it might be a Malcolm Gladwell-ish kind of comment, but as you get older, you become sort of the composite personality of the 5 or 7 or 10 people you spend the most time with.
Yeah.
And if you spend time with great people, you
It
will also
elevate.
become a great person. But
Hmm.
they'll be able to tell you, um, what makes you so special.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of people will be surprised about what people think they are, as opposed to what you think you
Yes. 100%. Oh my God. I love Malcolm Gladwell. But yes, no, I completely agree with you. I love it.
are. Okay, so where do we go from here, Marnie? Do you want to tell us about how you died?
Well, I had a stroke when I was 20 years old. So I semi died. I had a minor bleed in my frontal lobe when I was 20. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, a little bit wild. It was crazy. And now it's like a closed book case. They say that I have the same chance of having a stroke as anybody else. But as I was saying before at the beginning of this, like even though other people may have seen me as outgoing and confident, I was not. I was anxious, I was depressed, I was unhappy with myself. I had an eating disorder at that time. So I believe that I know why it happened. But yeah, it resulted in me having a stroke, passing out in the middle of the field at my summer camp, like forgetting about 3 days of my life. So I wouldn't say they told me that I actually died, but I think at some point, I'm sure I did die. And I will say I'm not like, I didn't wake up saying like, oh, I have to live my life now. It actually put me into a further hole, to be honest, once I did
Mhm.
recover from that, because half of my body didn't work as well. I was very
Right.
uncomfortable. I was scared if I was saying things correctly and making sense to people.
Yeah, I've
But
gone
for the
through that.
for yeah, well, so what happened to you?
It's a long story, but I have a condition called a severe onset heart block. So
Mm,
the nerves in your heart that tell your atrium and ventricles to beat kind of died. So my heart would stop beating.
that's
And
crazy.
yeah, so when your heart stops, you kind of stop.
You kind of stopped
And
too.
but your body
Wow.
has all sorts of interesting backup systems.
Yeah.
But my backup systems were also damaged by whatever caused this condition. So they didn't kick in as rapidly as they should have. So
That's
I
intense. Oh my
I was
gosh.
clinically dead a whole bunch of times.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but it gives you some perspective. Like that actually helps you hit bottom, and from bottom you can go up.
Yeah.
And probably that happened a little
That
bit with
happened
you.
to
Like
me. Yeah,
yeah.
100%. I moved to Los Angeles. I was when I was done with college, I wanted to get away from everything that
Mhm.
was assisting with all of those things that were going on with me. So I just wanted a fresh start. I moved to Los Angeles and then that's when things changed. And my eyes opened up. I met new people. I worked on myself and yeah, it was just and I will say that like starting my business was a huge start in my transformation because I had this new responsibility to help men be great, but I also had to be great at the same time. I couldn't just be this person who was uncomfortable, self-conscious, anxious,
Mhm.
non-confident, and then preaching to other people that they have to elevate themselves. So I think in tandem with me coaching men, I coached myself through this whole process as well. So it's been really cool. Like me helping men has ultimately helped me. There's a selfish reason why I do what I do. It feels good, number one, and then it
Mhm.
also assists me.
So do you think you look
Mm.
materially different than you did when you were in your early 20s? Or is the Marnie,
Materially?
yeah, the Marnie we see right now physically is kind of the
You don't,
same?
yes, of course. Oh my God, I look so different. All I can concentrate is my hair's thinning right now. My face looks puffy. I have wrinkles. Yes, I look totally different from when I
Hmm.
was 20 years old. God, like I have, yes, I have many insecurities about that. But it's funny because when I was 30 even, I was like, oh God, I'm gonna have to stop doing YouTube in 3 years. Who's gonna want to see a 33-year-old on YouTube? And then I was like, oh God, who's gonna want to see a 38-year-old? So people still want to see me, so that feels
Hmm.
nice. But yeah, I'm like, oh God, who wants to see a 45-year-old on
Hmm.
YouTube? So yeah, those insecurities creep up for me for sure.
Well,
I
when your
don't look the
assistant
same.
said that you would come on the show, and I was very excited about it, and I showed a couple of my buddies, and oh my God, this girl's smoking hot.
Wow, thank you for telling me that. Are they blind? Are they half blind? Is that
Well, I
a
didn't want to
joke?
mention that.
Yeah.
It's funny watching them with their white cane on the keyboard. Tap, tap,
Right.
tap.
Yes, exactly.
So no, these are healthy, younger than me men with
Oh, well,
so
that feels really good. Thank you for saying that.
you're welcome. So what do you think or what do you see going forward for your business enterprise? You're gonna conquer the world and
Hopefully, I want to get into the relationship space soon. So I think
Mhm.
we've tackled flirting, we've tackled attraction, we tackled dating really, really well, and are one of the leaders in that area. And I think our next space is, educating men throughout the dating and relationship process and marriage. And
Mhm.
then eventually, I mean, this is me just selfishly saying this because I have younger boys, I eventually want to start working with younger men too, and assisting them in this journey.
Mhm.
It's a little bit difficult to teach dating advice to like 12-year-olds, but
Mhm.
there's a way to do it that I'm thinking about that I would like to do later in life.
So no more of the old school. If you want to get the girl's attention, you pull on her pigtails or
No, pull
whatever.
on her pigtails, totally. No, I don't know. That's what I'm working on right now. How do you do it when you're younger, right? So
Mhm.
I definitely want to look more into that, and I have to go through the process with my own sons, like
Mhm.
whether they're interested in girls or boys, I don't know, and see how I coach through it, and see how I can then transfer that to other individuals.
Mhm. I think, there's not a lot of programs, but there are some programs now teaching leadership skills
Yes,
to the kids.
yes,
And I
it's
think that would
amazing.
be a huge benefit to
Yeah.
them. And you could layer that with what you want to teach.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Actually, that's a good point and something that I can look into. Yeah.
Okay. So, Marnie, we are almost out of time. So, if people want to get hold of you and learn how to work your magic in their lives,
Yeah.
or come to your laboratory, how do they
Come to
get
my
hold of you?
laboratory. I love that. They go to winggirlmethod.com and they can find out tons of stuff there. Sign up for my newsletters. That's the best thing. And then you would find out about my podcast, about my YouTube channel, about my programs, all of it. So winggirlmethod.com. And whoever signs up for my newsletter gets access to my free ebook, 10 Mistakes Men Make with Women and How to Avoid Them.
Awesome. So I'm a nickname guy. I like giving people nicknames. And you mentioned that your hubby gave you the wackadoodle title.
Yes, I know you. I heard you say it before. And I was like,
And
oh, you say that too? Yeah, wackadoo, wackadoo. And I
wackadoo.
loved it. And then he stopped calling me it. I was like, oh, I kind of liked it. He used to also call me, oh my God, what was it? Something Boombasa. And I was like, oh, that makes me feel heavy. Don't say that anymore. But then when he
Yeah.
stopped saying it, I liked it. Yeah.
I would have gone with wingnut just because
Wingnut.
it's on
Pe-
brand.
I've heard people have called me wingnut before.
Mhm.
That's funny. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you,
Goodbye.
Wingnut
Thank
Marnie.
you. Thank
Thanks
you
for
so
coming
much for
on.
having me.
To everybody watching and listening, thank you all for tuning in to the Dead Man Walking podcast and hope you enjoyed. Please like, subscribe, share, visit Marnie. She can change your life and have yourself a great week. See you next episode. Bye bye.
Awesome. Thank you.